Yo guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going to ruffle some feathers with a controversial opinion. Let's talk about this age-old advice you've definitely heard before. Don't put your eggs into one basket. Sounds safe, sounds smart, right? Wrong. This piece of advice, it will never get you rich. Let's get real. When you invest your money, ask yourself, what's the goal? Is it just to beat inflation and feel safe? Or are you in this game to create life-changing generation wealth? Mediocre returns aren't going to cut it for me. And honestly, they shouldn't for you either. Why? It's because opportunity cost. Every dollar that's safely diversified is a dollar not making bold moves. So here is my definition of financial success. I'm not aiming for 5 to 10% a year. My bar is 2 to 3 times in the short term. That means 6 months to a year. And in the long game, 5 to 10 years, minimum 10x or nothing. It's either I make it big or I sleep on the street. My mantra, no half-assed investments, full ass only. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying YOLO your entire net worth on meme coins. I'm talking about calculated, high conviction bets based on deep research. So here's a story time. Back in 2016, before COVID, I got into crypto. Back then, Ethereum was 150 bucks. I did a lot of research, understood what blockchain was, understand the potential of it. And here's what I did. I told everyone, my friends, and back then I was in the military service in Singapore. So even the officers in NS. And that's when AMD came into the picture. So back then there was AMD and Nvidia. Both of them were great investment. I chose AMD. It had 13 times returns after I cashed out. I went in big, zero regrets. Here's the thing, to be successful, you need to zone in. And zoning in means winning. So focus is so important. You succeed when you zone in and not by splitting attention between 10 stocks. Taking calculated risk. Know the company like it's your future spouse. Study the tech, the management, the market size, the competitors, and the vision the company has. So let's break down AMD for a second. AMD, Advanced Microchip Device. They are in the semiconductor industry. Back then, there were two main players, Intel and Nvidia. Why AMD stood out was because of AMD's edge. They had chiplet design, which means energy efficiency. Energy efficiency meaning more electricity bill saved. TSMC was producing their chips. And what's their huge play? It was the server market. It has billions in potential. Look at all your big companies like Google, Amazon, Netflix. They all require servers. And to run the servers, you need CPU. And AMD is part of the game. Back then, Intel, they had huge market shares. However, their energy was not as efficient as AMD. Here's the thing. In the server market, the life cycle is not as short as the gaming PC market. It takes 5 to 10 years before company upgrades. So for them to adopt, it takes some time. And back then, my outlook was 7 years. And Interestingly enough, 7 years later, AMD became huge. Google, Amazon, they started using their CPUs for their servers. And in contrast, in the gaming market, all your gamers, they upgrade your PC every year. Every year there's a new CPU coming out, a new GPU coming out, but the market is not as big as the server market, and it takes time. So moving on, let's take a look at the CEO, Dr. Lisa Su. She's not just a CEO, she has a PhD, and her PhD thesis was in chiplet design. So that's next level conviction for me because she's not just a CEO, she's not just a businesswoman, but she's also a tech person who did her thesis in chiplet design. At the time, Intel was worth 200 billion. In contrast, AMD was just merely 10 billions. With AMD's technology, they can capture at least half of Intel's market share. And with a logical assumption, with superior tech, AMD hitting 100 billion was just math, was very logical. And in today's market, AMD is more than 200 billion, and everything came fruition. So let me use a marriage analogy to illustrate this. I look at investment as how you would want to research your investment like you are dating to marry. Let me ask you a question. Would you marry someone just because your friends said they are diverse and safe? Hell no. Same thing with stocks. Here's why diversification fails. Let's get into a bit of math. Your average investor, say Tom, Dick, Harry, has $50,000. Aiming for a 5% return, that's 2.5K annualized. 2.5K. You can literally cut back on coffee and save that amount a year. That is not life changing. But had you invest the same 50K into Nvidia, Tesla, or crypto back then, now we're talking money. We're talking half a million to multi millions. So if you were to invest 50K in 2016, you would have been retired by now. And here are just some names and case study to illustrate this point even further. Jeff Bezos, multi-billionaire, back in the days when he started, he went all in into Amazon, dedicating his time sleeping in his office, working on his online bookstore called Amazon. Elon Musk bet big on PayPal, and after he cashed out, that took him years by the way. He bet his own money on SpaceX and Tesla. Very same situation. Elon Musk worked very hard and he was sleeping in the factory office of Tesla. And another great example is Steve Jobs. He had so much obsession on design and tech. His dedication to the tech industry made it made him really wealthy, and also he made a huge impact on the tech space. And the last example I'm going to give is John Bon Jovi. Yes, even in music, you need to dedicate, you need to focus and all in to make it big and successful. So let me tell you guys a story. My mentor who taught me trading, he was a rock musician back in the days, and he started off with John Bon Jovi. Back then, they were from New Jersey, they were poor. However, they had the grit, the dedication. They spent hours a day to practice on music. He was sharing with me how he was practicing all the scales, the mixolydian, Dorian scale, just to get that additional edge in music, the understanding of theory, practicing rhythms every day. And there was a point that he was broke. He already spent 3 years into the journey, 3 to 5 years, and he had a daughter to raise. And he decided that, okay, in the next 6 months, if I don't make it, I'm going to get a regular paying job. And interestingly enough, within the next 3 months, him, Bon Jovi, and the rest, they got a deal, record deal, and they made it. And before 30s, he was a multi-millionaire. And the rest is history. So he got into trading just to manage his own money. The point I'm making here is that you need time, dedication, and focus to make it work in any industry. And that is the same for the financial market. So here's the deal. Diversification is great if you are already rich, if you have a few $1 million in your bank. But if you're trying to get there, you need to focus. Bet big, know your basket like you know your spouse, and then go all in. So that's it for today's video. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you agree or think I'm crazy? Like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.